Back for another edition of In the Huddle. Carl Dukes, put them up, along with Jason Canfora, Brian Baldinger, part of this podcast. First and foremost, guys, happy holidays, Merry Christmas, Happy Hanukkah, Happy Kwanzaa, however you celebrate the holidays. We appreciate you guys being here. Jason, as we look at this playoff picture, and it's getting a little bit clearer, right? Every week, it seems like there's nobody mathematically, well, Giants, Raiders, but outside of that, mathematically eliminated for some of these teams that are still in the hunt. For example, the Cincinnati Bengals. But as we start this podcast, guys, and we're talking to you on a Tuesday, coming off of the two Monday night games, I just want to start there because it's fresh in our head, and then we'll get to Philly and Detroit and some of the other stuff we saw this weekend. First of all, Minnesota's really good. We knew that. But the Bears, what the hell are they doing with Caleb Williams? We know he's been the most sacked guy in the league. I thought the kid was going to get killed last night in the that first game. I have no idea what the Bears are doing.
Yeah, look, I think the Chicago Bears, the ownership and front office built a team that clearly has significant issues. And they put it in the hands of Matt Eberflus, who had no business being their head coach. And the trickle down of the crap, like it's been hard to watch. The buck seems to just keep getting passed to people, and they keep getting miscast, and more is being asked of them than should be asked. And really, all eyes should be at Ryan Poles, at the McClaskey family, everybody who has run Hallis Hall for generations. Thomas Brown has no business doing what he's being asked to do. Like it's unsustainable. So like you took your best defensive mind out of the building. You've now asked a guy who you thought was going to be third in the pecking order offensively to not just run the whole offense, but to coach the football team. You let Eberflus stick around longer than you should have, to where he sort of subverted your entire morale and really kind of pissed off the whole locker room. Like, it's a complete shit show. And so it's showing in their product, and it has shown for quite some time. And usually it was in sort of close and late situations in games. And now they're ill-equipped to play NFL football right now. Like what San Francisco did to them was shameful. Last night, like, shameful's probably too strong of a word, but they've got significant issues. Minnesota, the score doesn't indicate how much Minnesota was able to sort of bully them. I mean, I'm not an Eberflus guy at all, but like, Matt Eberflus could run a Tampa 2 defense that could keep you from converting on third and forever, time after time after time, like Minnesota did. And I'm saying this as somebody who's, backing Minnesota in that game, wanted Minnesota to cover. But like, it's going to be ugly here the last few weeks. It's going to get uglier. I don't think they have any ability right now to match up with NFL teams that have anything to play for and compete. And unfortunately, the quarterback is wearing the brunt of it. And they did all this despite knowing for quite some time that they were going to use that first overall pick on a quarterback, and not being proactive at all and trying to put people around him who you thought might actually be there 3 years, 4 years, 5 years down the road. So it's really their naivete and their organizational bullshit that continues to affect their football product. And I'll believe they can get out of their own way when I see them actually get out of their own way. There's no reason to believe that they have the wherewithal to develop Caleb Williams the way some of these other teams are developing their quarterbacks. There's no reason for me to believe that. I don't believe that they'll do that. And we'll see who they hire and who that person, brings in on their offensive staff. But like, there is a very real chance that they screw it up with this kid. That there absolutely is. I
Well, for me, here's what else is interesting about this. And we're talking about the Monday night games last night. We'll get to the Falcons, which was a disaster in its own way. But Kevin Warren, there are reports out last week, or early this week, should I say, the weekend, about Ryan Poles apparently not knowing that he would have to report to Kevin Warren, and that, he's, I don't want to say disgruntled. That may be the wrong word, but, maybe he wouldn't have taken the job or whatever if he would have known that he wasn't reporting to ownership. And I'm like, dude, there are bigger problems. You got bigger issues than this. Like Kevin Warren, I think, again, coming from the Big Ten and his history, I feel like he knows what he's doing. But
Yes.
now you have these internal things potentially going on, and we don't know if they're, factual. These are just reports. But Jason and I have been doing this a long time. A lot of times where there's smoke, there's fire. And if that's getting out where Poles is like, hey, because he's leading the coaching search. So
Yes.
whoever he hires, this is going to be his deal. And I'm more curious about that because, like, to your point, if you get the coach wrong again and then you're firing Poles and the coach, now the kid, Caleb Williams, is starting all over again. And now you've wasted 4 or 5 years. And we get back to, like, how do guys get to this point? How do we get to where we feel like a kid is a bust because it's no fault of his own, because he went to a crappy team or an organization that didn't have the wherewithal to set him up for success? So
the name I keep hearing is Cliff Kingsbury. Let him do that. Let him do it. For Caleb Williams' sake, I hope they don't. But let him. Stupid is as stupid does. Let him do it. There's every reason for me to believe that they're capable of it, despite everything that happened in Arizona. Let them do it.
Yeah.
I dare you. Go for it.
It's crazy. Obviously, Vikings win. They are, guys, in the playoffs. How hard of an out are they going to be? They look pretty damn good. And for everything we've said about Sam Darnold, he, threw an interception, I think, for the first time in 4 or 5 games last night. It didn't matter. You said it. Total control.
It was a 4th down interception. It was a punt.
Yeah, correct. It didn't matter. So I really like what I'm watching with Minnesota. Let's talk about this other Monday night game, because this is what a lot of people around the country are saying. What the hell is wrong with Kirk Cousins? And I keep getting asked this question. I don't know. What I do know is this. He's in his head now. And this is a problem, Jason. You cannot have 3 weeks left in the season, expect him to start playing at a high level when he is even afraid to throw the football where he needs to throw it. They win against the Raiders last night, but it was pathetic.
Pathetic is right. And I thought, look, if nothing else, if this is, Kirk Cousins' last stand, like you can't go out and show out against the Raiders without Max Crosby, right? Then we're making the change. I thought, if anything, this would be an opportunity to flex their passing muscles, right? And show why they've stuck with Kirk Cousins. Like, if you stuck with Kirk Cousins to run the ball 40 times, then why isn't Penix in there in the first place? Like, right. If you're comfortable with like 11 for 14 for 100 yards, an interception and a touchdown, like, you're telling me Penix couldn't do that? It just doesn't. It doesn't make sense. Like, if this wasn't about an opportunity to show that Zach Robinson and Kirk Cousins can find middle ground and that they could get him under center more and take more under center play action shots and meet Cousins a little more halfway. Like, if you just want to run your offense out of the pistol, then why isn't your best athlete at quarterback? Like, I cannot for the life of me figure out organizationally, like, what these conversations must be like through the week that keep leading them to this outcome where it's clear that what they believe in is not what Cousins does best. It's clear they don't trust Cousins. They don't trust their passing game. Nothing they're putting on film, even in their victories, indicates that this team under this quarterback has a shot in hell to beat anybody in the playoffs, yet they stick with it. I don't understand it on any level. If you weren't going to try to air it out with Cousins here, why is he still your quarterback?
That's the biggest question. And look, I don't even know if they make the playoffs right now. The way the Bucs are playing, they own the tiebreaker, but the Bucs may ultimately have more wins with them than the Falcons at the end of the season, and they're going to get in.
But if you're prizing the here and now over the development of a kid you took 8th overall, then it better be about the playoff. Like if you don't look like you can play playoff winning football with Cousins, why are you wasting precious games with him? I don't care what you're paying him. Arthur Blank's worth more money than Kirk Cousins' weekly paychecks are absolutely nothing to Arthur Blank. They don't affect his bottom lines, his life in any way, shape, or form, right? Because that's what we're talking about. We're talking about the upfront money's gone. The signing bonus is gone. Like, it's paid out, staggered. It's all been budgeted for. None of this is new. None of this is surprising. If it's not about Michael Penix right now, then you must be telling me you think you have a better shot to win games that actually matter with Kirk Cousins. The way you're operating these games and the way he looks, we must be watching different. Like, we must be watching a different product. Like, yeah. It does not compute.
The front office, my guess is, Jason, and you've seen this, we've seen it, where the commitment to the guy that they did sign, they're afraid that if they move on too soon, right, he's got 2 years, basically. We've been talking about this contract. The fourth year, there's no guaranteed money. You talked about it. Most of the money's spent.
You could move off him this year if you want to.
If you want to.
Right? You might eat a little bit to do it, but that's the welcome to the big leagues.
That's exactly right. And I think part of this is that they are battling that, right? And in the meantime, you're crossing your fingers and hoping and praying that he's going to play better, and he just hasn't. I don't like anything I'm seeing with this football team right now, and it's crazy because Kirk Cousins earlier in the year, guys, threw for 500 yards in a game, and everybody said, "Holy crap! Look how good he is! Look, he's back from the Achilles. It's terrific." And it's completely been downhill since then. It's in the huddle. Jason Canfora, Carl Dukes, Brian Boldinger, a part of this podcast. And as we get ready for this upcoming week, Baldy will be with us on Thursday as we preview all of the games. Let's talk about what's going on with the Lions. Because as much as I like what's happening, I'm a little bit afraid that attrition's going to get them. Like, they can't withstand all of the injuries that they've had and expect to potentially make a long playoff run. And Jason, I was looking at all these injuries, and I kind of, looked at a chart. And literally, it's like, not only are they having starters out, but now it's backups. And then the backups. You can only grab so many street free agents, man. I mean, like, it's not the same. And so I think offensively, they can do what they did against the Bills. Hell of a game. They came back. But they can't stop anybody, Jason.
No, they're compromised, Carl. It's defensively, it's hit every level. It's wiped out D tackle, it's wiped out DN, it's hurt them at linebacker, it's hurt them on the back end significantly. Like, and at the time we were all asking them to do more at the trade deadline, but the reality is, even if they got Jadeveon Clowney with the way they've been wiped out, you know what I mean? Like, how much would he really do right now? Like, now, if they got Jadeveon Clowney and Calais Campbell, you'd say, but I mean, even that, like that, to me, that game, losing your D tackle, losing your tempo setting running back, because to me, Montgomery is actually an extension of the defense. Like, I look at Montgomery and what he does and say he does a lot of the dirty stuff that just, it's grimy. It just keeps the offense on the field. That defense needs help right now with all the injuries. How do you help them? You keep them on the sidelines. And it's awesome that they have Gibbs, and Gibbs is a special back. But Montgomery's the guy who came out there the first drive every week and tried to set a physical tone, which helps the defense. He's the opener and the closer. Like, I feel for those guys. I do. And I lived in Detroit for 3 years. I've got a lot of friends there. I have a soft spot for Detroit. Even when I'm covering the Red Wings and they're winning back-to-back Stanley Cups, everybody I know there, and this is at the lowest of the low, for some of those Lions seasons, is like, dude, if you ever lived here and the Lions were good, and it doesn't happen that often, but like, this is a Lions town. Like, people are desperate for good football. And they built a hell of a product there. And it's been decimated, and that's the nature of this sport, and it affects teams every year. And because they're playing in the toughest division in football, and because all the wins still weren't enough to separate, I do feel like the walls are closing in on them.
Yeah, It's going to be tougher. They are now 12-2. Obviously, Minnesota wins last night. Yeah, man. Look, and here's the deal: if the Eagles get home field, it's not going to be good.
No.
I mean, like I felt like all year the Lions absolutely had to get home field, and it felt like it was trending in that direction. And now, obviously, it's like Eagles get home field, bro. It's going to be a lot of it's going to be a big problem for the Lions. So we'll see.
Well, and it's the bye. It's the bye. It's
Yeah.
to have that week to reassess your medical situations and not have to have anybody play football that weekend, right? Where you can assess sort of the triage. If they don't have the bye, and you're adding literally a game to their inventory at a time when they're running out of players, that might be too much of an ask.
Well, I'll tell you what might be too much of an ask, Jason, and that is to think that Patrick Mahomes can go through the playoffs with a high ankle sprain and get the Chiefs back to the Super Bowl for an unprecedented third straight opportunity to win it. We've been talking about it all season. We've all said on this podcast, obviously they're good enough. And even though they haven't looked it at times, you just put it in Mahomes' hands. Okay, so now they beat the Chiefs, or excuse me, they beat the Cleveland Browns. Mahomes throws 2 touchdowns, but leaves with this injury, and the X-ray is negative. But let me ask you, because now we're talking about strategy for the next few weeks for the Kansas City Chiefs, because do you even attempt to play him? You still want to get home field, but am I going to play him in these situations knowing that what's in front of us is way more important? Like, I'm debating this, Jason, about how the Chiefs and Andy Reid handle these last few weeks. Texans at Steelers at Broncos.
That's another one where they ran away, but they didn't hide. And that loss at Buffalo is looming real large right now because they haven't cemented anything in terms of their seeding. And I know that bye is a big deal to Andy Reid for obvious reasons. Look, this is at like the 5th or 6th time that Mahomes has had what appeared at the time to be at least a ankle injury of some degree and caliber, and he's never missed a game. So they know him better than anybody, and some guys just have this ability to, they're so flexible, the plyometrics, all the things they do to their body, their kinesiology year-round, they're just able to snap back from things that most people can't. And that certainly has been one of Patrick Mahomes' superpowers. I still wouldn't risk it. It's why you have backup quarterbacks. They're facing a gauntlet of 3 games in 11 days. I would, and again, easy for me to say, but I'm not, I'm not tied to their outcomes like the coaching staff is, but I would see if he's ready for that Pittsburgh game. And that would be my goal. He's also, and a lot of times when this has happened, he's come back into that game. Right. The fact that he didn't get back into this game.
You're right.
And they didn't pull away from the Browns. And my God, the Browns, I mean, Jameis throwing the interceptions in the end zone. Like, this could have been 21-21 going into overtime. Like, it really could have been. I just think you rep your backup quarterback up all week. And it's all about Wentz, and you try to find a game plan to score one more point against the Houston Texans, then you give up. They're a win-ugly team anyway. It's not like they're sacrificing this dynamic passing game because they've lost Patrick Mahomes. Like, I'd be surprised if he played this football game. I don't know that the juice will be worth the squeeze. I take my chances at home against the Texans. Because I don't know that the Steelers game, Herbig and Watt and those guys, I don't know, man. I definitely don't want them going into that game further hobbled or being more compromised. And can I beat the Texans without them? Like, the Texans are a really limited operation right now. Like, the Texans offense is really tight and constricted. Like, hey, Spags, can we win this one with our backup quarterback? 18-15. Like, that would be my entire organizational goal for the week, is just putting together a game plan and strategies that allow us to beat the Texans in a low-scoring game where I don't have to ask my backup quarterback to do much. Lord knows they got plenty of running backs there. So I don't. My suspicion is he doesn't play in this game.
I agree. I just don't think it makes sense. Andy Reid's been at this a long time, guys. I think he understands and knows the situation and circumstances. Make sure you follow us on YouTube in the Huddle Pod. Guys, you can watch us live and follow us. Follow Jason, follow Baldy, follow me as well as we talk nothing but NFL. The end of the Saints game. Commanders win by 1 point, 2019. Jaden Daniels was sacked 8 times in this game. But ultimately, they found a way, to hold on. But there was some controversial stuff at the end of this game, Jason. I want to get your take on this because, you're talking about the clock stopping and all of this stuff. And I think I overheard you say you had the number. Is that right?
Well, I took it early in the week, so I got it at the 7, not the 7.5. So,
all right.
Yeah.
Tough. That's tough. Bad beat.
That's why it's gambling, though, right?
It
is not. It's not a level playing field. It's not. You're not always going to get it's not going to go your way. Like, these are humans, and when it's NFL officiating, the degree of human error is significant. And anytime you place a bet, like the guy running the clock, and even the people at the league office overseeing this, like they might not get it right. Like, they might get things wrong that you think is beneath them, that you think a high school operation should have under control. It might happen. I just the Washington Commanders not building up a more comfortable lead here, like, and the Cliff Kingsbury of it all. Like, they were dominating this game in the first half, and they weren't putting points up in a manner, especially on the road, that would be commensurate with how they were moving the football. And they could not run the ball in the Saints, which would be a major takeaway for me in that building right now. And if I'm a Commanders fan, it's like, man, I thought that, Robinson and these guys would road grade a Saints defense that was giving up 5-1 a carry, and a Saints defense is bottom 3 in the NFL in success rate against the run and EPA against the run. And Daniels did go off, but but you don't want him running all the time. So that would concern me a little bit, that they're not. This was never a great red zone offense. They were scoring from 30 yards out, 35 yards out, 40 yards. That's not sustainable. Like, it's really hard. Like, that's hard to do the better course of 18 weeks. And that's not there as much anymore. And so I'm looking at the schemers and the coordinators saying, well, what do you got for me, man? How are you earning your paycheck? Like, that would give me pause. They've gotten much better defensively as the season's gone on. I mean, I didn't think the Saints. It's clear they played the wrong quarterback, right? Because once they made the switch to Rattler, the whole thing changed. I mean,
it looks different. Yeah.
And if I'm Commanders fan, I'm like, man, oh man, like, I saw Spencer Rattler against Denver. I saw Spencer Rattler against some teams this year. It looked like he had no business in the CFL, let alone the NFL. And he comes in and he all of a sudden he nearly leads a crazy comeback. So look, Washington gets in the playoffs. That's a huge win for them. They get this young man, this quarterback, into some playoff experience, playoff preparation. They're clearly way ahead of the curve. Getting Lattimore back finally 6 weeks after you traded for him or whatever. Better late than never. But just study any Cliff Kingsbury offense, man. Study them weeks 1 through 6, 1 through 7, and then study them the rest of the way. It's apples and oranges. I mean, it just is. And you can give me 9 million excuses for it, but I don't buy that guy. I don't buy him whatsoever. And if I'm in that building, or I care about the Commanders, I'm praying the Chicago Bears hire Cliff Kingsbury. I am praying that this guy gets an opportunity to go somewhere else. And, maybe we're able to find a coordinator that can take Jaden Daniels to the next level.
So Darren Rizzi, the coach of the Saints, at the end of this game, decides to go for 2. He goes for the win. And Spencer Rattler, to your point, Jason, led them on a 56-yard drive at the end of the game with a chance to win this thing. And they catch the break from the clock. The officials who mistakenly stopped the clock, which is the big controversy in this game. But as time expired, he throws this ball, and Rizzi was asked about it, and he says, "Look, I don't regret going for it, and I don't think the players do, going for two at the end, and that's why this was a 1 point game. But there was a lot at the end of this game where you're like, what the hell is going on? The clock stopped. Why are you going for it? I mean, did you kick the extra point, go for overtime? I mean, there was just a lot. And the Saints, I think, at this point are like, what the hell? We're not going anywhere.
Oh, absolutely.
Why not go?
Look, he's trying to keep his job. He's trying to. I mean, he's trying to anytime a team makes a change, especially in season, they're viewing you versus the other guy. Like, so if I want to be the anti-Dennis Allen, I'm not going to be conservative. I'm not going to be stuck in my ways. Like, hey, we got a chance to steal this game right now. Let's try to do it. We just moved the ball all the way down the field. They've had trouble defending our offense since we got this, since we put Rattler in there. Like, I have no issues with what he did whatsoever. Like, that's what they should be doing. That's what they should be aspiring to. And look, I don't think it's out of the question that they keep him. I really don't. Like, no one's going to tell Mickey Loomis what he has to do. If Mickey Loomis is comfortable with this guy,
I don't
and he could sell to the owner that, hey, they kept playing hard, and we went on a win streak. And look, like, they've been much better at home. Like, and that's a big deal there. That. Like, they've been competitive at home since they made this change. They're not getting run up and down on by Bo Nix on a Thursday night in prime time. So that's going to resonate with ownership as well. It's not a great field of coaches. Like,
yeah.
I mean, are they going to pay a coach $12, $13 million? I don't think so. Like, are they going to win a bidding war for Mike Vrabel? No. You know what I mean? So, like, I don't know, man.
Yeah.
Like, they could keep this guy. They kind of like the homegrown thing.
Yeah, they do. They stayed that route for the last few years. I do agree with that. All right, let's talk about the most dangerous team in the NFL. I didn't say the best. I said the most dangerous. The Green Bay Packers. Jason, I don't know if they're as good as the Eagles. I don't know if they're as good as the Lions. Maybe with all the injuries, maybe they're better. But I do think they're the most dangerous as we head towards the playoffs with the way Jordan Love is playing. That was a beatdown in Seattle. Now, I know Geno got hurt, but I don't even think if he's out there, it matters. I mean, like, the way that game was playing and the way the Green Bay Packers played, let's talk about them for a second. They're 10-4, obviously. As I said, from a record standpoint, they don't have the best record. There are 3 12-win teams right now in the NFC, in the Lions, Eagles, and the Minnesota Vikings. But, man, I like the Packers. And I think you and I were on these guys. I remember when we gave our Super Bowl picks. And it's been like this, right? I mean, we've kind of, watched it up and down, but I think we both really believe in Jordan Love, and, man, he's come on.
Look, I was prepping for a gambling show I'm doing this morning, and one of the prompts was best value to win the AFC and NFC, and I like the Packers, man. Look, the Packers have trouble with the Lions. The Lions are not the same Lions that they were on Thanksgiving, even, right? Or that they were a week ago. Like, so you look at who they've lost to. So they lost to the Lions twice. They lost to Minnesota. They lost to the Eagles in Brazil, barely. They lost all those games by a total of 20 points. Like, they can play with anybody. If they had to go to Minnesota or had to go to Detroit, would it freak them out in the playoffs? No. We saw what they did in the playoffs last year when they were an even younger team. Jordan Love is back to playing his best ball and making better decisions. Are they still a little too naive at times? Yeah. Do they get a lead and start to play with their food and get a little cute and let people hang around?
Is that their youth, though? Is that their youth?
I don't know. It's something, because, like, they do it. Like, they do it a lot. I mean, I think back to the Rams game. Like, there's a lot of games where it's like you just don't know why they don't keep their foot on people's necks once they get it there. They're not alone in that. The defense has gotten better. They're no longer the worst special teams in the league, which they were for a long time. Yeah, I buy them. I mean, on his day, that quarterback can slay any dragon you put in front of him. So I'm bullish on the Green Bay Packers. The Eagles are a very different team than they were week one. That was a weird game, played on really soft turf in Brazil. They're a balanced football team. I don't think they scare easily.
Yeah.
LaFleur is one of the better coaches in the NFL. I absolutely think there's value on Green Bay to emerge in the NFC. I mean, yeah, I like their chances. I do.
I do too. I do too. And Geno Smith, I don't know how severe the injury is. I mean, for them, and we're talking about Seattle now. They had been on a nice win streak, nice run. But I like the way Josh Jacobs ran the football in this game. The kicking game was on point. I mean, all the things that you need heading to the playoffs felt really good about a tough place to play on the road in Seattle. And so I'm just telling you, this is a team, whether we're talking a lot about them or not, they are dangerous.
And Carl, they've played the field. So there's not going to be a whole lot of intrigue with the AFC. To me, is totally set. The NFC is mostly set.
Agreed.
So we don't know who's going to win the West. Well, they've played the Rams and they've played Seattle. So whoever it is, they've played them. We know the Eagles are winning, and they've played everybody in their division twice. That's, okay. So maybe like Tampa. Did they play Tampa? I know they played Tampa last year.
Yeah, that was right. Yeah.
So maybe they won't have played the South winner. I don't think they're going to be particularly fearful of them. I think they'll be pretty battle tested, man. I think they'll be ready.
Well, you get the Saints. This is their schedule moving forward. 3 weeks left, guys. Saints at Vikings, right? And then Bears. So, that game's January 5th. That's the last regular season game. Who knows by that point what this looks like?
Stake, yeah.
Yeah. And so how you play this out
might be a bye for them. They might be able to treat that as a bye.
Yes, exactly right. All right, Jason, let's talk about the Philadelphia Eagles because we're talking about the Packers. Look, personnel-wise, there's no one in the league that has the team and the depth I think that the Eagles do. They hit in the draft. We now see that, right? Cooper DeJean, all these guys, they hit in the draft again. And we kind of felt like that was going to be the situation. Mm-hmm. But all of a sudden, it went from, hey, AJ and Jalen are not cool to, hey, kumbaya. And AJ gets the ball and the vertical passing game is back. Look, if that is what this is going to look like, the Eagles potentially are headed to the Super Bowl.
Look, we saw them win a whole bunch of games riding Saquon Barkley and people talking about him as an MVP and, single season rushing record and all that stuff. And then they hit some turmoil and they flipped the script. And it's almost like you would have pre-programmed it if you could as an Eagles fan. All right, so AJ is going to get 10 targets and Devontae is going to get 10 targets. Okay. And they're both going to go over 100 yards. Okay. And they're both going to get in the end zone. Okay. All that happened. And the quarterback's going to be almost perfect with a busted finger, throw for just under 300 yards. And the only reason he doesn't throw for over 300 yards is because we're going to hold the ball for the final 10 minutes and 11 seconds or whatever and literally suck the life out of a Pittsburgh Steelers defense. That's pretty damn good. I mean, that's what happened. So you couldn't have scripted it any better. It was just what the doctor ordered.
Any concerns for you here with the Steelers, though? We know, and we'll talk about it Thursday. Ravens-Steelers rematch this week. Obviously, Ravens won't get back. But any concerns here? I know the Watt injury that I think Mike Tomlin said he expects him to be back this weekend.
That's the best Watt's looked to me in a long time. And Lane Johnson talking after the game, you would have thought the Eagles lost. So if they can get that kind of Watt against Baltimore, I mean, they tore Baltimore up in the trenches in the first meeting, and Watt didn't really do a whole lot. It was Herbig back from IR and in a big way, and it was Patrick Queen, and it was the occasional safety blitz. I look, the Steelers, that's a tough matchup. The Eagles haven't lost in 2.5 months.
Yeah.
The Eagles haven't lost to the Steelers in Philadelphia since 1965. That's just been one of those things where it doesn't go the Steelers' way. Ifs and buts. If they call that pitch play for Warren and not Najee Harris, because to me that's a Mr. Outside play, not a Mr. Inside play, but whatever. And there isn't a fumble. Pittsburgh might go down, tie the score, and it's a totally different football game. But as it stands, Najee Harris fumbled the ball.
Big
and
play.
I think Pittsburgh had 2 possessions the rest of the day. Like, defense couldn't get off the field, and the Eagles' offensive line imposed their will. There's something about, do I think Nick Sirianni is going to reel off a bunch, you know what I mean? 3 in a row in the playoffs, or 4 in a row in the playoffs.
You feel it in your gut, yeah?
And even in this game, and it's big boy stuff. I don't get caught up in too much of the BS. But there just always seems to be something happening on their sideline, and it's like, why is that happening? And maybe they get off on it. Maybe they need it. Maybe it's good for them. I don't know.
Yeah.
It's just never clean, which is not the end of the world. But they really needed to get an early lead in that game, right? Like, you could not have scripted it better for them than how it went. I mean, they suffocated the Steelers' offense the first quarter.
They did.
They overcome some special teams issues to play with the lead. And I mean, the Philadelphia Eagles right now are the best team in football. Like, to me, I mean, I'll take them over the Bills because I think they're more balanced than the Bills. Well,
this is what I'm saying, Jason. Like, if this is how things are going to play, because what the Eagles have shown us now is, and this is important, Kansas City did this the last few years, right? We can win however you want us to. You need us to run the ball, we got that. You need me to throw vertically, we got that. You need our defense to get stops, we got that. Yeah. Like, they're showing you we are not just one way. This is the way we can win, and if we don't do it this way, we're in trouble. And that's why I agree with you. I think they are the best team. That's why I said the most dangerous team to me is the Green Bay Packers. The best team is the Eagles. And, you know, again, I know everybody's is going to want to talk about Josh Allen and the season he's having, and it's been amazing. And, you know, again, whether it's Lamar or Allen, both viable, fine. But that's what's scary about the Eagles. And if they're able to get out of their own way, to your point, right? All the bickering and whatever is happening, and, you know, Big Dom on the sidelines trying to get guys engaged, whatever's going on, if they can get out of their own way, they can do this. And that's why I still think, like, okay, regardless of what's happening, they're so damn talented and they can win in all these different ways. Is Sirianni going to get in the way? And that's kind of what you're saying.
Or right? Special teams.
Yeah.
The kicker, and just is somebody's special teams unit going to outperform theirs with the season on the line, and that ends up being the difference in a 1 or 2 point game. That's the other element.
But you know what else, real quick before we get out of here, guys, and it's in the huddle. Subscribe, like us, follow Jason, follow Baldy, and follow me as we talk nothing but NFL here on the podcast, and keep up with everything that's going on. The fact that if they get a lead in one of these tight games and you've got Saquon now, that's like you talked about the way they handled the Steelers. Like, the Steelers didn't touch the ball. Yep. That's how you win these playoff games, if need be, right? And they are able to do that now. I didn't feel that way even in the year they won the Super Bowl. Like, this feels different in that way. So
they can close it out on the ground, and they're built for that's a team that's built for winter football. And there's gonna be it's here. It's getting cold on the East Coast. It's go time now. Some of these forecasts this weekend. Don't make your bets without checking these forecasts. Woo. Blustery cold, crazy winds up and down the East Coast. And they're built for that.
Jason, great stuff, man. As always, thank you for being here, everybody. We talk about the league, and we're counting down 3 weeks left, and then we're going to see what this playoff picture looks like after this weekend. And then, of course, we get games on Christmas. I mean, we're going to be talking about all of that. So make sure you tune in and subscribe, like us, and tell your friends. Jason Canfora, Carl Dukes, everybody have a great day. We'll talk to you later in the week.